Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. Yet again, I brought on another fantastic group of independent comics professionals. I mean, these people are like top of their games. So, without further ado, let me bring it in. But before that, please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. Without further ado, we're going to bring in the replacement of our normal co-host.
I can't replace Jay.
Well, you know what I mean.
I'm just stepping into his shoes for a night. Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, like I said, we just got back from a convention, and it was a show. So I mean, we don't like to badmouth a lot of stuff live, but we do it other places. But yeah, it was a thing. So Marvin Wynn, Sherman, coming straight to you from Comicbook.
All right, there you go. And we have our co-host.
Hello, everybody. Does this sound better now?
A little bit.
All right, well, I've tried every plug here. So, hello, everyone. This is Mark Torres, came from the regular official of the Big Apple Con, and we are on Indy Comics Explained on a non-holiday, so this is very weird for me to be here, but welcome all, and let's see who was on our panel for today.
All right. How you doing, Madeleine? Please introduce yourself.
Hi. Hi, my name is Madeleine Holly-Rosing. I am the writer-creator of the Steampunk Supernatural series, Boston Metaphysical Society. And as you can see behind me here, this is Kickstarter Fulfillment Central, also known as my office. For those of you not familiar with the comic, it's about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battle supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. And my dog has just come in to decide to visit me.
Nice. And also a very good book. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
And we have Adam. How you doing, Adam? Please introduce yourself, sir.
Pretty good. I'm Adam Watson. I am the owner of Comics Mainstream, which is a new distribution company. We're bringing back Spideracks and newsstand distribution, but updated, be more friendly towards comic creators. And I also own Darkslinger Comics, which is a publishing company.
All right. Very nice, very nice. And how you doing, Andrea? Please introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Andrea Lorenzo Molinari. I am a writer of a graphic novel series called The Shepherd that began first 5 years with Caliber Comics, based out of Michigan. And now I'm with Scout Comics, publishing new material. I'm also the editorial director for Scout Comics. So I work with, so far I've done something like 140 titles that I've edited for Scout since 2020.
Very nice, very nice. All right. They keep you busy.
Oh, yeah. In fact, just before, by the way, as things would have it, minutes before this whole thing started, I was on the phone with my publisher and the president because despite working on something for an entire month, there was something that was not on the list that should have been on the list. And so now it's a crisis, which, that's the way it works.
Yeah, this is it. Right?
Worked on it for an entire month, so we wouldn't have a crisis. We did anyway. So there it is.
Welcome to crisis management, right?
Exactly, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it, right? So, so here we are. So one of the titles of the show is Diamond Comics and the direct market beneficial to indie publishers or indie comic creators in general, right? So that's the question. How's your feeling towards that? Because now we have the world of Kickstarter, we have alternative distributors like Adam, and there's Adam, and there's like 3 or 4 others at this point, similar people doing similar things, offering alternative distribution. There are guys out there like Marvin. Marvin, one of the reasons I had him on today is because, one, he's going through Diamond currently, or he will be in January, right?
Yes.
And he also self-distributes, and he's contacted over 200 retailers on his own, right? So I find it very interesting that we have this group. Everybody's been in that market, and everybody's in there, right? So, yeah, so my question is, does the direct market benefit indie creators? Let's Madeleine, please, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of a hybrid in all this, and I actually encourage people to become hybrids. I started out self-publishing and going through Kickstarter. I did approach comic book stores initially, Boston Metaphysical is a very niche comic. And so sometimes it can be a hard sell for comic book stores who focus on, DC, Marvel. But then later on, I was picked up by Source Point Press, and they put it through the previews and distribute it through comic book stores that way. But in addition to Source Point, doing their job, I also literally got on the phone to, I don't know how many hundreds of comic book stores and pitched my comic. And that helped in some cases, in others it didn't. It was very interesting, the different responses I would get from retailers. Some really appreciated that they were getting a personal call from the creator, and others will say like, well, we just don't buy our comics that way. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. And move on. And as you know, I also utilize Kickstarter quite a bit for distribution. So I don't think there's any one way. I think indie creators should be utilizing multiple platforms.
Okay. Fair enough. Adam, what are your thoughts on it?
The direct market's beneficial, but Diamond's not. If they were, then I wouldn't exist, and all those other distributors that you mentioned wouldn't exist. They don't exist to work with independent comics. I think Steve Geppe's feelings on independent comics were kind of shown when he bought was it Capital. The 3 warehouses worth of independent comics went as a fire starter for a fire team to train how to put out fires with paper burning. So, just simplistic fact. Diamond doesn't do what I want him to do. And I think that's the case for most independent comic creators.
Gotcha. Now, going along with that, right? With the going along with Diamond and yourself and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what other avenues do you see opening up? Because I know you distribute not just to regular comic shops, but you have other avenues that you're exploring. So I mean, what avenues are you looking at?
All of them. Any place that I think comics should be available, that they haven't been available at. At the moment, I have a bookstore. I have an RPG / like Dungeons & Dragons and board games. They sell that kind of stuff primarily. I have a marijuana dispensary, which has actually been our best market thus far for mature themed titles. So I'm absolutely going to be adding more marijuana dispensaries. It's also interesting because previously, in previous iterations of the newsstand market, you didn't see any mature titles as far as I'm aware, right? And now I've created a scenario where there is a place that comics are being sold on the newsstand that have to be mature in order to be there, right? But I'm of course interested in putting more comics in comic shops as well. I want comic shops to go anywhere. I have some deals with comic shops as well, as you know. But I'm also looking at video game stores. There's a 2 stores now that I'm currently talking to that are action figure specific type stores that I'm trying to get Spinner Racks into there. There's a place I'm speaking to that's it's not a Lego store in the official sense, but it's like one of the places that sells Lego secondhand. I'm talking to them about putting a rack in that'll have more all ages type material in. They don't want anything that's going to be above like kind of that 12, 13 age range. But I think something like the Oswald Chronicles, at least judging by the issue that I have, I think it'd be fine there. But I'd like to make that decision. But basically, I'm just looking for any type of place that I think comics should be available.
All right, cool. That's very fair. Andre, how do you feel about it? I mean, you work for Scouts, obviously.
Right. Well, I think that Madeleine expresses kind of a feelings that I have. I think that I would advise any comic creator that, you kind of have to use a variety of different methods to get the book out. I think that Diamond, like I'll speak for myself, as a creator, somebody who's creating the comic book, sending it out, through Diamond. We also send out through Lunar and Universal, which is a Canadian distributor. You sell a lot of books through Diamond, and the financial returns, for the number of books that you sell, whereas with Kickstarter, you sell maybe fewer in number, but the financial returns are better. A distributor by their nature is a middleman,
right?
And with all that implies. Mm-hmm. So I think, ideally one of the things that Scout has tried to do, as a publisher, is that we've really worked hard at driving business to our own website and encouraging comic book stores to buy directly from us. And that's been an adventure, but that's something that we do. We really work on very hard. But we also use the distribution channels, but we just don't rely on them to be the primary source. But I don't know that you can escape them, at least for now. But I think that they're part of the picture,
Gotcha. All right.
That's one thing I'm trying to cure, by the way, too. You talk about it. You talk about distribution companies like we're something to escape.
Well, you can't.
I hope.
But my whole point is you're going to have to deal with them.
Signed on with me want to escape. Hopefully they're looking to build long-term relationships. If you're working with distribution companies that you want to escape, that kind of shows that there's a problem with these other distribution companies.
Yeah. Oh, I think, yeah, but here's my point is that the best model is to just sell directly to the customer. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be the best model because you keep the majority of your profit. The trick is how do you get to the direct market? And Kickstarter is a proven way to do that. Now, the flip side of Kickstarter, and Madeleine, I'd love to hear your comments on this, is that, it tends to be a relatively small slice of the population. So you can make quite a bit of money, off that small slice of the population. Whereas you might sell, say, 8,000 or 10,000 books, through Diamond, Lunar, and Universal. You might only sell 300, but you end up walking away with a lot more, significantly more profit through Kickstarter. But Madeleine, please, you know more about this than I do.
Yeah, I've run 11 Kickstarters, and number 12 will be next year. So yeah, Kickstarter has helped me. Boston Metaphysical wouldn't exist without Kickstarter. It not only provides a new audience base, but allows us to continue to grow our business. And if I just relied on SourcePoint and Diamond and other direct market avenues, that just wouldn't bring in enough money in order to sustain the business so we could continue producing comics and other things as well. But I'm not poo-pooing that, because in a lot of times folks who find us in a comic book store then find us on Kickstarter, like, wow, I already got that. Let's, they cross over between platforms. And for me, that's great. Or I meet them at a con and they buy more, tchotchkes or whatever of mine at a con because they've seen it at a comic book store. So for me, it's all cross promotion, cross marketing. It all works for me, but fundamentally it's Kickstarter, which enables me to survive.
Now, do you see a lot of because obviously there was a point where you were doing Kickstarter and there was a point where you started publishing through SourcePoint, right? So
correct.
when you started publishing with SourcePoint, was it a small migration, or did the migration from SourcePoint to your Kickstarters, did you see a significant jump? Was it something that was, that happened over the course of a period?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have no data to support that. That's almost impossible to track that. It's only anecdotal. But it's also a great feeling when you go to a con and say, like, oh, I have you on my pull list. And so I'm like, oh, that's cool. Someone's seen me on their pull list. But now they've met me. They sign up on my mailing list at my table. They may not buy anything that day, which is fine. But I've got their email now, which means I can go directly to them in the future. So the Diamond and other ways that people find me, and if they come find me, it's all this weird intermixing, cross marketing, cross promotion, and unfortunately, you can't get any data points on a lot of this.
Right.
You really only can through Kickstarter and the links that you supply, the custom links, and see how where people are coming from. But yeah, it's also just it feels good to be able to, when someone comes to your table, it says like, I've seen you before, I've seen you in my comic book store, and you're going like, yay. That's always exciting.
Well,
I think exactly.
You got the white background.
Oh, I think
Oh,
you just got the white background. That
I
voice.
guess I'm at my warehouse.
So Mark, what are your thoughts on the question?
So I think I've mentioned this on my show a couple of times. So I used to work in a movie theater, and I always compare movies to comic books. And I went to the National Association of Theater Organizers pre-pandemic. It was the big thing. A whole bunch of movie theater companies went down there. They had the people talking, whatever. And the biggest thing was, this is pre-pandemic, is that the studios, the major studios, were trying to figure out the best way to get their product directly to the customer, because they hate movie theaters. They always have. There's always been an enemy, that they're the enemy because they're the middleman. So for independents, for even the bigger guys, the streaming and the pandemic, streaming services getting it directly beamed to the customer is what they want. So for comics, it'd be the same way. If we could find somehow, some way to just send it right to the customer with a click of a button, that would be the best for all, because you're getting rid of the middleman, as Andre said, and that's how you're able to reach the customer. Now, the thing is, how do you get the reach? That's on marketing, because everybody knows Disney Plus, everybody knows all the different streaming services, and that's where everything's being pushed to, is the streaming services. So if everybody has streaming services, then it's like, oh, if there's the one button you just turn on a computer and Google, and it pops up with the list of anybody's comic, that's how they do it. So how do you do that? That's the question.
All right, fair enough. Marvin?
So, I mean, I want to just follow up on what Mark was saying about movie theaters and comics being very similar, and that is how it seems to me. Is that a comic shop is like a movie theater. It's the middleman in the process, because they're not creating anything, so they're counting on someone else creating something and then pushing it to them. And what you notice is that with like your AMCs and your Cinemarks, they do no kind of advertising at all of outside of that theater. So their entire market is based on someone showing up that they know is going to be there. They don't reach out and try to bring anyone in. Independent theaters do. They do ads and things like that for what's coming out their theater, because they have to, because they're smaller than these theaters, where they know everyone's going to come. So when you're looking at, does it make sense for an indie person to be in stores? It depends on what your purpose of being there is for. Are you there to make a profit, or are you there to expand your business? And looking at it from a kind of a weird perspective is that when you're independent, your customers are the store owners, the people that work in the store, and their customers. From a perspective of a Marvel or DC, the store owner is the customer. They don't care about the people who are buying the books. We do. So if you want to say you want to use the Kickstarters and things like that to push your book to people who are unaware, and then try to get them to go to a comic shop, because looking at it from the outside, the comic, like your mainstream in your comics and your direct market is shrinking, and it's shrinking rapidly. So if you go back and look, in the 90s, there were 10,000 plus comic book shops in the United States. There are less than 2,000 now. So over a course of 30 years, you've lost 1,000 stores. That's bad business. And it's because the way that the top dogs treat those stores is they don't treat them like the customers are the customers as a whole, not just one person. So it's our purpose here is to reach as many customers as possible and use as many methods as possible to reach everyone we can reach. So whether it's Kickstarter, whether it's going to stores, whether it's setting up conventions, whatever you need to do to do that because you're going to have to touch everything to get things done for yourself.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I've been around the business for a little while. I started in '92, and when I first started self-publishing, we had 14 different distributors, and when we were, through that system, you could sell 3,000 to 5,000 books, being a nobody. Okay, just no advertising, nothing. You could just go out through these 14 distributors and just put out your book and sell 3,000 to 5,000 books. If you advertise, you can hit 10, 15, 20,000. This was during a period when black and white comics were doing very well, right? Things changed in the early 90s for that system, but you could still get away with doing that. But once it collapsed down and it was just Diamond, it made it very, very difficult to get into that system. Sales, a lot of independents, when I was still in their catalog, if I was selling 500 or 600 books, I was lucky, right? So, I went from selling 3,000 books to selling, 500 or 600 books, but I only had the one outlet. So, but I still feel there is a benefit to Diamond, because I was there when there was a big distribution pool, and there is a benefit to selling that many books and getting them out there. It worked for us. I mean, I was fortunate enough never to go into the red. I always made a little bit of money, which was good. I was only 19 at the time, so.
Well, I mean, I think there's that trust factor is still there for most stores, because before I was in Diamond, when I was contacting stores before, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're interested, but we like you if you were in Diamond. We want to order from Diamond. We want Diamond to be our middle person in this because we don't want to deal directly." And I think that's changed very recently, because now a lot of people are saying that, well, we're willing to go direct now. Can we just get it from you directly so we don't have to go through the middleman now?
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, Marvin, you're up, sir.
Oh, you want me to ask a question?
Yes, sir. You are the co-host.
Co-host on the spot. So, I mean, I think that where we like to go. So, if we're talking about the retail spot of this,
actually, Marvin, give me a second. I got another guest to bring. Mr. Kid, how are you, sir?
Good. Sorry, I was late. My co-partner was supposed to be here, but apparently he's not here. So I got to put on the big boy pants and come on in.
Hi, Travis.
Hi, Madeleine. How are you? Good to see you. And
you too.
Andrea and Marvin, and I don't know Adam, and I know Mark a little bit. So
a little bit, yeah.
Yep. So please, Travis, introduce yourself, sir.
I am Travis Gibb. I do a bunch of books through Orange Cone Productions. Tonight, I think we're talking about stuff in Diamond. So for my Diamond stuff, I've got Coins of Judas for January and February. And then we've got, hopefully, Granite State Punk for Scout in March. And then I've got more Coins of Judas and more Granite State Punk, all sorts of cool stuff for Diamond this year.
All right, cool. Marv, please, sir, continue.
Okay. So, I was in Baltimore at the Baltimore Comic Con recently, and I got to talk to our Diamond rep, and I missed the summit, but I was able to scheme some information from it. So Aftershock business is up 130% because of their ambassador program. So my question is, has anyone else looked into possibly doing something very similar where you are giving incentives to fans to go into comic shops, their local comic shops, and talk up your product?
Interesting. All right. Well, Adam, you're up, sir.
I've thought about doing stuff like that, but when it comes down to it, I'd rather just hire actual sales reps. I mean, I've thought about creating programs where there's like kickback for fans who get comic shops to order product through us, or help us get a spin rack into places, things like that. Like one of the locations we recently got, I hadn't spoke to the guy at first, Warren Brown, if any of you guys know him. He had talked us up to the shop, and that kind of opened up so like I'd like to do some sort of kickbacks or stuff like that, but I haven't actually sat down and figured out the math on how that works exactly.
Gotcha. Andre, how are you handling that?
I don't think we're doing anything like that, to be honest with you.
Do you think it'd be something that maybe would be something you guys are looking into maybe into the future? Would it be beneficial to your business?
I don't know. I really don't. Sometimes I see the orders that come in, from the various shops, and I think, a lot of them, when they order relatively small, 3 to 5. It seems to be a pretty common number, 3 to 5 copies of a given issue of a particular book.
Right.
I think a lot of it is that, they're worried about how many they can sell. So they tend to take a more of a, conservative approach to it. So how to move that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
question.
I mean, exactly. Yeah. So, to go along with Marvin's question, for you, Andre, because obviously you're there and you're right in the middle of it. So do you if you had someone talking it up to the retailers, do you think maybe you could push that number, say from 3 to 5 to maybe 6 to 10? You know what I mean? And how would that affect you guys? Do you think that would that be something that, I don't know, you could explore in the future?
It could be discussed. I guess the problem with that is that let's say you have somebody come in, you have basically anecdotal. What it might benefit is that I think it would do more for shops that maybe don't buy any Scout comics or fill in the blank, whatever the company happens to be, whether it's Source Point or Orange Cone or whatever. Right. It raises maybe some awareness, and having somebody say to them, "Hey, I've read this book and I thought it was really good. I don't see it on your shelf. You should consider ordering it," kind of thing. One of the problems that you tend to run into with smaller presses is that, unlike DC and Marvel, who has, like Detective Comics, it's a monthly, like with Scout, we have very few that are what you would call a monthly comic, like By the Horns, for example. I'm not even sure that we have any besides them that do it on a monthly basis. Most of ours tend to be either one shots or miniseries. Like even with the Shepherd, what I do is typically, we do a miniseries. So it's like this last year we did a 3-issue arc and a one shot. Right. It's difficult to do the multi-issue, like say a 6-part series, for example. It's first of all, it's expensive to do a longer series, and second of all, with sales the way that they tend to go, there's a big drop off often between issue 1 and issue 2, and that's pretty much industry wide. So then you begin to ask yourself, how much pushing an individual issue that by the time that momentum gets going, in an individual miniseries, by the time the momentum gets going, the miniseries is over.
Right.
So it's a trick to say, how do you spend your money, advertising wise?
Gotcha. All right, cool. Travis, what are your thoughts?
So what exactly is the question? I just want to go back to the core of the question, just because I missed that. I may have missed that because I was only semi-screaming on my phone.
No. Wherever you got it?
Sure. So at the Diamond Summit, Aftershock did a presentation, and
ambassadors. I got you.
Yep, the ambassador program. So they're up. Their business is up 130% at stores where they have ambassadors.
With one of the companies that I'm working with, Band of Bards, they're trying that. They have a street team that goes out and does stuff, and it's doing okay. It's got me into a couple of stores and got me to do some stuff. And I think that it's really important when you have a smaller publisher, right? Like a Band of Bards. Like most people, some of you guys probably don't even know what Band of Bards is. That means because they're brand new in the market. And like my sales for Band of Bards will probably be less than my Scout book just because of name recognition, because that logo matters, right? That logo That's why we're always trying to go up, to the Aftershock, and then after you get to Aftershock, trying to go to a Vault or an Image, or Dark Horse, because that logo means a certain like baseline sales, like regardless of what we pretend, it's that baseline sales. So I think that's important, but I think that one of the things I do think that once you can get a store to pay attention to that section of a catalog, it opens everything up, right? Like if you can get one hit under a brand, the rest of that publishing line does well. I mean, look at Second Sight. It blew up for a little bit. I know it wasn't around for a little bit, but because it had a couple of small little blips, they got Jonathan Hendricks' next book, things like that. I think that matters. And I think street teams are important, but it's really hard to talk to comic stores these days because when you go in, used to be just competing on their next order, but now they're doing online auctions, they're doing whatnot shows, they're doing auctions in the back. So talking to that guy is really, really hard these days to get that ambassador. So you really got to build a strong fan base on the core to even get that conversation, to get a couple of your people ordering it, and then you can have those conversations, in my opinion.
Interesting. Madeleine, you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the ambassador program at all, so it would be difficult for me to comment on that. But being an indie creator myself and an office of one person, it would be difficult to add to my already trying day to have incentives and fans and try to put together my own ambassador type program would just suck away time beyond belief from creating and managing my business. So yeah, I have to leave that to my partners, and in this case is SourcePoint and Travis. I have heard of Band of Bards. Since I do have I have a short in the Darkness of Purity anthology, so I'm actually looking forward. Everyone should get that, by the way.
Yes, not to mention Coins of Judas. Already on my pull list. So, Mark, how do you feel about it?
So I look at it as Andre was saying, the brand. So if you normally go to a comic book shop, as you said, what's Marvel? What Marvels do you have? What DCs do you have? You say, well, and then it's independent is a giant ball of everybody else. So unless you have a constant flow of a product from the independents, it's going to be a varied thing. So if you have people going in as a brand ambassador, I think what was it Geico? They call them brand ambassadors, and they have people walking around talking about Geicos. But it's a brand, and everything's under that umbrella. And because everybody's an individual thing, it's extremely hard in my mind to get any type of brand ambassador, because basically they're selling you, not an independent. And that's already a problem, because big name, and then Bob and Frank and Ed and Larry and George, how's it going to get everything? How is that going to do? So I think it's difficult to get a brand ambassador for yourself unless you're with a company that produces a similar type of product that you do. So if, let's say, you do all horror comics, if it's a horror independent company, then they'll know that each month they're getting a horror thing, and then you can join in on that little brand.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I feel that as independent publishers, we're all just like single individual units, right? If it was just myself, it would be easier to tag up with a bunch of other publishers who are selling fantasy books, because that's what I primarily am into. So it's to find a group and maybe get a small group of fantasy publishers together. And the system that I was told about, this is JD was the normal co-host, but he's off playing with children today. Good luck with that, Jay. Have fun. his niece and nephew.
Right at all.
No, his niece and nephew are visiting, and he's spending family time. What is wrong with you, Mark? But one of the things he said that what I think Aftershock does is they give goodies to their brand representatives. So they'll give them some books, they'll give them some T-shirts, they'll give give them some nice stuff, maybe some autographed books, that sort of thing. And, get maybe a small community with a small pile, and you maybe get some individuals, maybe 15, 20 people together. So it's interesting, but it's hurting those cats. That's the hurdle, because there's a lot of cats and there's a lot of egos involved, and everyone, listen, you're going to have one person say, hey, I sold 30 books. And the other guy's going to be like, I only sold 5. What's wrong with your guys? Why are they only focusing on that guy? So no matter what, you're always going to have that issue, right? So it's, it's definitely, that would definitely be the hurdle that I would see. So I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting approach.
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure out what's the most effective use of your time.
Right.
And for most independent creators, setting up their own street team is just not an effective use of their time. Mm-hmm. So that's a business decision you have to make. I know Travis has a bigger thing going on and a lot of feelers and a lot of stuff going on all the time. Mm-hmm. So he might be able to add something more to this.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're talking about Aftershock, particularly, like, I would actually even wager to say this that they actually would probably be better off to help with the creators. I know a couple of Aftershock creators who've worked there who their book was like, oh, we're coming out. It's now in Diamond, like, you're ready to go. And they didn't get a chance to sell to stores and stuff like that to get it store exclusive, stuff like that. So it kind of shows Madeleine's point, right? Like, they may be really good at ambassador team, but now I know creators who could have sold to certain stores, right? Like, my Band of Bards book has 9 store exclusives. It's a brand new book from a brand new publisher, has 9 store exclusive. My Scout book has 5 store exclusives already ready to go. But that's because of my hustle, because that's what I'm good at. So if you can combine the two, I think that's the best result. It's just how to do that. And even though I say that, not everyone has my skill set. Someone could have a better book than mine, but they're not great at talking to stores for whatever reason. I used to work in a store. I know how to talk their language. I know when to call, all these other variables that go into that. But I'm in Melbourne, Florida. JD, you're in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You, in theory, you could sell 1 billion, right? There's like a store every corner, right? That's the way it goes, right? And then
it used to be like that. It's just Midtown Comics and a couple of others. But Midtown is pretty much eating up the market, but they are a great group of guys over there, though, and you can talk to them. And they do back indies. Those guys are really, really cool. Okay, and then Daphne, she has an interesting one. The same thing is done for ElfQuest. They trade memorabilia to fans in exchange for match promotion on social media, giving actual FaceTime with Wendy and Richard for the best videos and TikToks. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. Alas, comic shops continue to disappear. I live in a city of over 10,000 people. We're down to one toy store that has a comic section at the back. Wow, that's rough. Yeah. So, all right. So, Marvin, answer your question, sir.
So, to me, I think that where things are going, and I think what comic shop owners really like is that face-to-face contact. I found this out by calling all these stores and sending all these emails that a lot of them just ignored it. And then when you're in their face in their shop, they're like, oh yeah, I got your email. Then they all of a sudden they pull up the email that they say they didn't get before. And like, oh, there it is right there. So yeah, let's do business. So I think that if you can get the right group of people that are invested, then you can do something very similar. I mean, it doesn't have to be a person in every state or a person in every couple states, but like you said, 10 or 15 people to go out there and just be your voice in that void that you can't get to. Because I can send emails all day long. I can make phone calls whenever I want. But like I said, that people can ignore emails and they can ignore phone calls. Even if you leave a voicemail, they don't have to respond. But it seems like it just works better when you're in their store in their face. They like that. People have been telling me that. I wish that we could get a rep from a company in our stores continuously to tell us about new products.
Cool. Mark, you're up, sir. What's your question?
So actually, jumping on what Marvin said, doing the radio show, I always find my best sponsors and advertisers always for somebody of the store I walk into, as opposed to calling or emailing or somebody I meet face-to-face at a convention. Those are always the best ways. That face-to-face thing is just something that people don't really do. So even now, I find it's more important than back then. So my question, which is completely separate, we're just talking about brands. So do you think that the brand of Diamond still has weight to it, despite the fact that things aren't looking so great for the distribution centers of comics? And if so, what do you think would be the next level? What would be the next thing that comes out?
Interesting. All right. Andrea, what are your thoughts on that?
I love this whole conversation because I'm realizing that I got to be careful about what I say. I think that
You're being recorded.
yeah, well, here's what I think. I think that what we have seen happen with distribution over the course of the pandemic is good for comics.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think that having multiple distributors is better because I think that we're getting better customer service. I feel like that's beneficial. The more communication that we have between distributors and the comic book producers, whether it be a publisher or an individual, I think that's better. I think the distributor takes a good chunk of the pie. I mean, let's put it this way. If you have a $5 comic book, I mean, think about this for a second. We have a product that costs thousands of dollars and we sell it for $5. So what we've set ourselves up to do is we have to sell a lot of our product to be able to make back just to break even. But that is made even more difficult because there's a lot of middle, there's production. There's all these different people and middlemen between the creator, whether that be the creator, the individual creator, or the publisher, and the customer. So it's very difficult. And I just feel like with regard to the distributors, we have to have better communication. There needs to be more of a sense of real listening to each other. And I think that Diamond has, I don't think that I think it is obvious to say that they are not what they were. I mean, that to me, is a given. I mean, you now have a significant competitor in Lunar. And I think that's good.
And Andre, when I'm trying to beat up on Diamond, they are important. They're important. They're vital, and they're gonna keep chugging along strong as ever. I mean, and listen, I look nothing forward to be in the catalog again because I want my books to go out there, and I know that's like the strongest resource at the moment. I know guys like Adam and the other people out there trying to do their thing, but if Diamond were to, just turn that nozzle, I think it could really turn around for a lot of Indians. But anyway, enough with that. Travis, what do you think?
I think, the pandemic was super helpful. I know to me, it got me into stores that I wouldn't be able to do without the Diamond, because Diamond shut down. Luna did all this thing and all these other distributors, but I get to talk directly to stores and get my book out. And that has reflected to how I sold so many store exclusives, right? Because I now have a relationship with them. They know I can sell my book, sell at their store. They're willing to take that chance on me. Where if they were so busy doing their Diamond orders and had nothing new to sell, they wouldn't have been able to give the time. Not they wouldn't have taken my book. I wouldn't say that, but they didn't have the time to distribute all that and taken care of. And every avenue for your book is helpful. Whatever avenue you can get. Even if it's small, whatever you can do to get your book to that next phase. I think that's a key picture in doing that. And I think that we're going to see that model continue to grow as more distributors are opening up and doing stuff. I know that Canadian distributor, I can't think of their name, has doubled the amount of books that they had compared to last year because of the little opening for Diamond. When that shell cracked, everyone's like, wait, there's other opportunities? Yeah, guys, come on. So I think there's some stuff. I think as long as you don't want to sell it at Spencer's Gifts, you're safe. Right, JD?
This is very, very true. Yes, very, very true.
No shade, just comments.
Listen, the dream was real.
Right.
That's the only part of it there was.
Right.
So, Madeleine, what are your thoughts on that?
as I talked about earlier, I'm a big fan of hybridization. I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket. I think you should be using a combination of Kickstarter, a publisher, if that's feasible, direct retail through, what Adam is doing, or contacting comic book stores yourself. I mean, I've done all of the above, and I still do all of the above. So I don't think there's any one way. And Diamond, yeah, I think Andre's completely right. Diamond is not as weighty as it used to be in the past, but it's still important.
Mhm.
And come on, you guys, you don't tell me you're not psyched when you see your stuff in the preview catalog. I mean, come on.
Adam, what are you thinking?
So the question is, does Diamond carry as much weight as a brand as it used to?
Yes. Do you find that it's a brand that has weight and it means something to be in that
No.
category?
Over the last couple of years, GFE has invested less money into Diamond and more money into things like new collectible grading companies. I think it's pretty obvious that they even know it doesn't carry the brand weight that it used to, because they're pivoting to do other things, right? They're looking to open up an Overstreet version of CGC. They're not looking to do this warehouse base, anything like that. No, I think it's pretty obvious that.
So the follow-up is, what do you think would be taking its place?
Well,
If any.
hopefully me,
Well said.
Nice. All right, cool. Marvin, what are you thinking?
Build something new, just for the record.
Right.
I think that you can look at this from multiple ways, and there's an external and internal look at this. And looking at things internally, because now that I have that code and I've got that email and I've got that password, I can look at some of the inner workings of things, and I have questions, I'll say, as far as that. But when you're looking at externally from a retail perspective, there are still the stores that are beholden still to that brand name. I know they'll use Lunar because they don't have a choice, because now you've got DC there. They'll use Random House Penguin. Well, I guess it's just Penguin again because that deal didn't go through, but they'll use them because they have to for Marvel. But if they could just use Diamond, they would, because a lot of these places only want to deal with one source. Even though they order games, and generally when you're ordering games, it's from multiple. You're not just getting one distributor for games. They just only want to deal with that because of logistics. I don't want to have multiple invoices. I don't want to have to log into a lot of different things. But in looking at it from the Diamond side, is that they really need to get into 2010. They haven't made it to 2010 yet, as far as their website, as far as the way that they do things is still back in the past. And they got it, like Comics Hub got a jump on them with being able to let you log into a website and put an order in. Now they're able to do that, but like they're still trailing behind other products that have come in and did that for them, from a store ordering and from a customer base too.
Interesting. Okay.
I would add to that too. One of the things that they do to new distributors. So when they lost Marvel, they panicked a little bit. And I'm not going to give all the horror stories, but they signed in a bunch of publishers, and a lot of those publishers did wrong. So now they don't trust publishers coming in, and it actually takes like a few months before you can get on FOC. In the majority of stores, so for those listening don't know, that's final order cutoff. Mm-hmm. So that a lot of people don't even go to their initial previews book anymore. That's gone the way of the dodo. They only look on FOC. So if your book never makes it to FOC, you don't even get a chance to order. Yep. And that's a paid, if I'm not mistaken, even to be on FOC. It's not a lot of money, but it's like $100 or something. Do you know that, Andrea? I think FOC is a charge, yeah. But you're not even eligible if you're a new publisher, so you got no shot. So that's something I want to add, which makes it really tough if you're if you're partnering with this new publisher and then they don't even have all the tools to be able to make you successful.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a new one, you know.
Can I ask something there?
No, of course.
Is the $100 fee, like, how do they justify that? Is it an advertising cost, or what is that? Because that's actually the first time I'm hearing about that.
And again, I don't know if it's $100. I think there is a fee to be on FOC. I think it's basically you're paying them to say you can adjust your order at any time, so you don't have to just put it out the thing. You could do it right before. So because they should have, so FOC means they could have already placed that order in January. They placed it with the comic store. FOC means that they had to order extra just in case you reduced it or added to it. I think that's
that more of what I meant is like for just accounting purposes, what do they claim the $100 fee is?
I think that's it. The risk that they're taking to order more copies that you may add or remove on your thing closer to release date. I think that's where that money comes in.
Yeah, it might be just a listing cost. You know what I mean? I could imagine them just a listing cost. I would just like just to type your name in or type the book's name in to the list. That's probably what it is. You know, they got a guy at a computer and they got to pay him. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think Diamond does carry a lot of weight. I think they're going to continue to carry a lot of weight. Regardless, they still have access to the 2,000 stores that are out there, so they're valuable because of that. So. Yeah, but yeah, they're not the juggernaut they once were, but they're still very sizable. So, I think that's how that's rolling. Mark, what are your thoughts on your own question?
So I think that it still has meaning, just like as opposed to having a streaming or YouTube channel or being a TikTok star, as opposed to being a television star. It still has that meaning. Whether or not you're getting the numbers behind it is a completely different story. Saying that, hey, I'm in Diamond means something to the certain people who are paying to get your stuff.
Right.
And
it creates that crack in the window, or the crack in the window and the crack in the door to get your foot in.
Right. But what would be the next step is I'm thinking that it would never go away, obviously. At least I would say I don't think it will go away. But there's going to be something to fill in that void. And whatever it is happening right now. We just don't know it yet. Because if you look at video games, remember GameStop was the place. Mm-hmm. And before that was Funko Land. It was like you had only went to one place that meant something. But now you can get games anywhere. Mm-hmm. in millions of places. So eventually somewhere down the line, somebody's going to be like, hey, if you all go to this one place, then you can get stuff. So I don't think it has happened yet, and it's forming, and the pandemic pushed that forward a little bit, pushed everything a little forward. That's what I think.
And I don't know, it's just you mentioned GameStop. You see they posted a huge loss for the quarter. Yeah, huge. So they're in trouble. Oh, and I mean, also they got sued by Diamond too.
Really? For what?
Hold on. I'll grab it now. I'll put it in.
Use the Google.
Yeah.
No, they got sued for they were buying comics, but then they just stopped. So they were buying rare, getting exclusive variants.
Oh yeah.
And then they just randomly decided to stop.
Wow. Okay.
And they had like a 3-year deal or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Madeleine, I pulled up your website.
I see. That's our relatively brand new website.
Nice. So please tell us about it. Tell us about Boston Metaphysical.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, it's a steampunk supernatural series in both prose, graphic novel, and audio drama form about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battles supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. The picture you see there is the cover of Volume 2, which contains our 4 standalone sequels. And we have Volume 1, which is our original 6-issue miniseries. And I'm currently in production for our new 4-issue miniseries called Mystery at Pikes Peak. So there's more coming. And more novels, and whether or not there'll be an audio drama is still kind of up in the air right now, just because producing and writing an audio drama takes an enormous amount of time.
Do you do all the voices yourself? Do you hire a cast?
Oh, the Ghost Ship, which is the audio drama, was a full cast with special effects and original music. It's like your old-time radio play. So no, the only time you hear my voice is in the beginning, plugging our sponsor. I leave the voices to the professional voice actors.
So when you did that, did you have voices in mind, and then you tried to cast towards that voice, or you just let them do their job? Like, I like that guy. I like that guy.
I had voices. I had voices in my head. I know how that sounds. Yes. Yeah, I kind of knew what I wanted them to sound like, and we got a marvelous cast of actors. They were just amazing. So, but yeah, I brought on the team of to help produce from Sage and Savant, which is also a steampunk audio drama, which was co-created by Eddie Louise and her husband Chip Michael. And Eddie Louise was the script editor and mentor for me, since it was the first time I had done this. And Chip was our director and our audio engineer. Fortunately, I come from a film and TV background, so producing was not alien to me. And I fell into that pretty quickly. For those of you, being a producer is not glamorous at all. It's mostly contract scheduling, and of course I wrote it. So yeah, it was just we had a very lean production team of 3 people. And there you see the on the far right side, the cover for Volume 1, our 6-issue miniseries, and then 3 of our standalone sequels: Scourge the Mechanical Man, Spirit of Rebellion, and Ghosts and Demons. And then the last standalone is Book of Demons.
So when do you expect the next Kickstarter to launch?
I'm looking at right now end of February, early March.
All right, cool.
And the plan is to have the first 2 issues, kickstart the first 2 issues in the spring, and the last 2 issues in the fall, so people don't have to wait that long to get to the end, to have the whole story.
All right, very nice. Now, just out of curiosity, how many issues do you produce a year? Are you looking to produce a year?
Well, when we were doing the one-shots, it was just 1 a year. And then next year, well, we started production of the 4-issue miniseries this year. We're just about done with issue 1, and then my new artist will be starting issue 2, hopefully, before the end of the year. So it should all be done relatively on time.
Okay, cool. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, awesome. I mean, looking forward to it as usual.
Thank you.
All right. So don't mind me. I have to start hiring someone to. Well, I should probably.
Marvin's supposed to fill the time as a co-host while JD's playing with the buttons.
All right.
He didn't even give me a wrench. I'm not even a wrench.
Yeah, I know. Daphne keeps complaining to me about. I don't give anybody wrenches. Nobody gets to look at the back room. All right. Did I pull up? All right, Andre. So I pulled up the Shepherd. Andre.
Yes.
Yeah. So please, I mean, tell me about the Shepherd.
The Shepherd is what's the technical term for him is a psychopomp. It's a very fancy Greek term for guide of souls in the afterlife. Very common mythological figure in a variety of different religions and different cultures. They basically serve as like tour guides. If you are familiar with Dante's Divine Comedy, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, the Paradiso, in the Inferno in particular, you have Virgil, that is guiding Dante through the different layers, levels, rings of hell. And that this idea, somebody like Charon, the boatman, is another example of a psychopath. Anyway, the Shepherd is a series of essentially ghost stories where he works with souls in the middle place, which we call the seam, and helps them resolve the things that they need to resolve so that they can move on. So far, we have 3 volumes published. The first 2, Apokatastasis and the Path of Souls, which you see on that screen right there, were originally published with Caliber Comics. They've since been republished with Scout with a lot of new material, and new covers. And then we just published 4 issues this year, volume 3, a 3-issue miniseries called The Valentine, and then a one-shot called The Pit. And we're getting ready to publish our 4th graphic novel coming out next year, which is called The Tether. And then we have one that we're putting the finishing touches on for the next year, which is called The Burning Maid.
Nice. Now, are you releasing them first as individual issues, or are you just going straight to graphic novel?
We do them different ways. Scout has a program that they call Nonstop, which is where they release issue 1, and then they go right to the trade from there. And the thought process is that issue 1s are where we consistently get our best sales. And we tend to lose money on the production costs with issues 2 and onward. Now, eventually you do make it up because, we do things like title boxes, and we bring those together and package them. And there's lots of different ways that we eventually make that all up. But we find that the best path for us is often, not always, but often, to do that nonstop, where you get all the benefits of the variant covers and the collectability of issue 1, and then you go right to the trade, which is evergreen, and you can sell the entire story as it is. So now the first 2 volumes, volume 1, volume 2, we went that route with the nonstop, but volume 3 there, those all, as you can see, came out as individual issues.
Gotcha.
Would you consider this kind of like a updated Highway to Heaven with a little more supernatural to it?
You could compare it to that, except for most of the stories take place in the afterlife. So you could compare it to that. I think it also maybe has some element of quantum leap in the sense of the time travel. And here's what I mean. We don't time travel, but basically in the afterlife, our concept is that any person who's ever lived in any culture that ever existed is fair game, because they're all possible to meet in the afterlife. So in that second volume, The Path of Souls, it's basically a story about a hospital for the souls of soldiers suffering from post-traumatic stress in the afterlife. And that hospital basically has soldiers from different time periods and cultures that are still trying to resolve the issues surrounding their death. And so we meet a soldier that fought with Napoleon. We meet a soldier that died in Fredericksburg, 1862. So it really, there's a historical element to our stories. Not all of them, but many of them deal with that.
And how do you toe the line on the religious, research?
Well, it's not. My background is I'm a theologian. Okay, so I specialize in the ancient Christianity was my specialty, the first 4 centuries. But I don't view the shepherd as I'm not trying to save your soul. Okay, let's be really clear about that. I hope you do fine, but that's not what I'm trying to do. It's not a religious book in the sense of I'm trying to convert you to anything, because that is not what we're trying to do. I've just always been fascinated with these journeys in the afterlife. They're incredibly common in the ancient world. The oldest extant piece of Western literature is the Gilgamesh epic, which is Sumerian roots, and then eventually Babylonian, so modern day Iraq, essentially. And in that most ancient Western text, you have a journey into the Sumerian afterlife. So, and it appears over and over and over and over in Western literature. in different cultures. So I've always been fascinated with that idea of going into the afterlife and seeing what, the different beliefs and stuff like that were. So, I mean, I'm equally fascinated by the afterlife beliefs of the Egyptians and the Nords and the Celts and the Greeks and Romans, as I am with Christian concepts and how the Christians may have borrowed from those cultures.
Cool.
That's very cool. Very nice. What's funny is I picked up the trade from Caliber like a few years ago, probably more like 7 or 8 years ago. I don't even remember. But yeah, I mean, this is really awesome. I mean, when do you expect the next series? When is it launching?
Well, this next one, the Tether, is going to the first issue of it'll be a nonstop in this particular case, and the first issue is going to come out in March. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool. Now, do you ever do crowdfunding campaigns before these, or you just go straight to?
I have, but my role as a editor for Scout is so time. I mean, it's so demanding in terms of time that I just haven't had the energy, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm lucky that if I have a break that I can actually keep writing, because I have a huge workload of titles that I'm working with, and then all the admin that comes with that.
Gotcha. Now, out of curiosity, because this is just an add-on to the question for yourself. So, if I may ask, what are your responsibilities? Like, because you're saying editor, that encompasses a big, that's a big umbrella.
Yeah. I don't do anything with submission. So if you're in the audience asking to send something to me, don't send it to me. Send it. We do take submissions at Scout, and it's easily, you go to our website, www.scoutcomics.com. There's a page, submissions, gives you all the instructions. It's actually quite simple. And you submit, and then there's a submissions committee that will determine that. When they decide on a title, that's when I get involved as the editorial director. I have a team of now 4 editors underneath me. I received that title that has been given a contract, and then I talk to the editors, see who is available, and I try to match interests. Like some people like sci-fi, or some people like supernatural stuff or horror or whatever, and I try to feed those interests. And then, once we have that, we do an onboarding with the creator. Typically, we talk about how we're going to work. We get an assessment of where the project is, because you got to keep in mind these projects come in all different states of readiness. I mean, we have them where the entire book is essentially done, and what they really need is a proofread. Where they need somebody to go through, work out their grammar, make sure the lettering technique is on par with what we typically use for lettering style as our house lettering style. But you can have it on the other end of the spectrum where they literally just have, the 6 pages of finished work that they needed for the submission, and then outlines for where their scripts are going to go. So it can be very different depending on which creator you work with. But I find it very fulfilling. I absolutely love it. I want to be real clear about that.
No, of course. I mean, that's the craziest thing about comics, is what we can sit here and all complain about all the things we go through and have to do, but at the end of the day, we still love it, right?
Oh, yeah.
As creators. I mean, I know myself, I love it. I'm pretty sure Madeleine and Mark and everybody else. I mean, it's the sort of thing we just if it wasn't for passion, we wouldn't be here. I could be working on Wall Street, making a ton of cash, but I decided to do comics. So here's the website for Scout, right?
Right.
Where
the submissions is right there. If you look on the side, the top.
There it is.
Yeah, right there. You click on that page. All the instructions are right there. Like I said, it's relatively simple. It's like 6 or 8 pages. I can't remember. I always confuse it. 6 or 8 pages that are basically finished work with your synopsis and that type of thing. And you send it in, and there's a panel. We have a committee, and they basically vote on it. You need to have the majority of the people on that committee that want to bring your book into Scout. And then we go from there. Once they've done that, they give you a contract. And then once that contract has been signed and you're officially part of Scout, then that's when they bring me into it. So I have nothing to do with the contracts, nothing to do with the submissions. And I'm working with creators and working with editors.
you're the next guy on the list.
I'm the next
You're
guy.
You're the next guy.
I'm trying to help you make your book better. That's what I'm trying to do. You know, do anything we can to make it better. And like Travis can tell you that when I typically tell a creator that comes in, there's 3 categories of things that you can expect me to comment on, or our editors to comment on. The first thing is going to be your lettering technique, because we follow the style guide that's Blambot. You can find it on the web, and they also have a book. Nate Pecos's book, Comic Book Lettering. I don't know if you can see that. It's a relatively affordable book. It's like $14, $15. So there's the lettering technique that we'll comment on. Then, of course, punctuation, grammar, and then, of course, your story. You know, whether it be character development, you know, plot, all that stuff. And the way it works, because remember, Scout is a creator-owned company. The way I say it is, I want you, as the editor, I want you to follow my lead when it comes to punctuation. I want you to follow my lead when it comes to style guide with lettering, although there's room for negotiation on things there to some degree. But when it comes to the creative stuff, I'm making suggestions to you. So in other words, I'm not going to cram any of this creative stuff down your throat, but just as a fresh set of eyes saying, here's what I'm seeing, you know, and then you can decide to take all, some, or none of what we say. Because like I said, it's very different to be an editor for a creator-owned company than it would be for, say, for example, Marvel or DC, where that editor also has to, that part of their role is they have to protect the brand. You know, you can, if you're writing Spider-Man, you can go from here to here, but not beyond that. You know, and the editor has to kind of like provide that, you know, those parameters.
Yeah. True. Can't go into the Spider-Man office and say, listen, I want to chop off one of his arms.
Yeah, and you gotta, unless he's going to grow it back by the end of that story arc or shortly thereafter.
Does it matter if the books are black and white, or you take the submissions are either way, black and white?
No, we do take black and white books. There's a book we're running out right now called the Blade in the Dark, which is a black and white. It's like a samurai, like Kurosawa meets Cthulhu kind of vibe to it. And that's a black and white. I would say that the majority of our books are color, and I think that reflects the fact that in the market, what I've seen at the conventions, and feel free to correct me, is that it's harder to sell a black and white book than it is to sell a color one. People have like an expectation, which is kind of sad, because there are certain stories that I think a black and white actually is just perfect for the story. Yeah. You know,
you have the right illustrator. All you need is black and white. I mean,
we have a book that's coming out right now. It's called Phantasmagoria. And it is, I'll just pitch it to you simply. Imagine Sherlock Holmes in Victorian England, only he's a mage and he only takes occult cases. That's Phantasmagoria. So, and it's all black and white. But the artwork is just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Great line work and very frightening.
Oh, cool. Got to watch out for that one. All right. Adam?
Yes?
This is all you, sir.
All right. So what do you want me to talk about?
Pitch us on your yes.
Tell us everything.
So this is our website, which, you know, needs some updating to be a little bit more publisher friendly, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm a website builder. Although you are, aren't you, Travis?
Yes. Why are you bringing that up? Don't make it weird.
Because I know you are. So these are the various categories, you know, pre-orders, comics, enamel pins, graphic novels, posters, prints. We don't just distribute comics. We'll distribute anything that's related to your comic as well. Although for the spinner racks, you know, comics are a lot easier to be putting out there. But as you can see, there's quite a few Dark Slinger things and Asylum Press things on the main page. That's because both of those companies have produced a lot of stuff recently. But we have various sections down there. Those are kind of the first publishers that signed up with us. And you have a book on here, JD.
Yeah, I do.
For it though. because there are quite a few titles on here at this point.
Yeah. No, it's somewhere in there. That's fine.
Yeah,
He didn't pay the extra behind the door fee to get it on the front page.
Well, I got the banner up until 2 days ago, but then I got some more stuff that I had to add. So I actually have to add a few more titles to this tonight too.
I keep meaning to, but Adam's like, "Hey, can I get this title?" And I was like, "No, I'm selling it to them." Oh, okay. Can I get this? I'm selling it to them.
Yeah. So I mean, Adam, so we've discussed a little bit about your business model, what you're planning. I mean, could you elaborate a little bit more? Because I mean, I think what you're doing is very important. You know, trying to find new revenue streams, basically, for indie creators. So I mean, if you could just elaborate a little bit more on it.
Sure. So the three basic types of distribution that we're doing are the spinner rack systems, which isn't just spinner racks. Like at the bookstore, for instance, yesterday I spent about 10 hours actually making a new display for the bookstore that we're in because they wanted to up their space. They wanted it to be made from wood, and apparently that's something that I'll do. I never actually thought that I'd be making a display for any of these places by hand, but you know, hey, I did. So it doesn't have to be a spinner rack. At Cosmic Monkey, for instance, we have some wall space that that's our section, is this one section of wall, right? But that's the basic sort of newsstand style distribution. And then we do direct orders as well. So if a comic shop wanted to come on the website and they want to order something, you know, it gets shipped out, that basically works the exact same way as Diamond, Penguin, or any of the other companies. And then in addition to that, we also do library distribution. So we're trying to get as many graphic novels as possible into libraries. One thing that's a little bit different about us, I think this is actually something that Lunar does as well, but we allow publishers to set their own maximum discount. Sometimes that does mean that the discount will be high enough that it's really going to entice comic shops to purchase, but we can work with a lower percentage than some of the other distribution companies. The spinner racks commonly get 30%, and our distribution fee is 20%. So that's 50% on any of those copies itself versus like the 60% the Diamond charges, or you know, a lot of the other distribution companies.
Before I get to my question, I saw in the chat that Madeleine has to run. You want to say where can we find you before you head off?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And you can find me at bostonmetaphysicalsociety.com. I think my first show next year will be WonderCon, unless I get off the waiting list for Emerald City. So we'll see. Great to see you, Travis, and great to meet everyone. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And I'll see you next time.
All right. Pleasure,
Bye-bye.
Madeleine. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Adam, as a distributor, do you have like a censorship or like a list of things you will not distribute, or how does that work?
No, I don't really want to do gatekeeping like that. I want all of the books that come through us to have a professional quality to the way they're printed, right? But in terms of the content on the inside, we'll distribute anything. There are going to be some locations that I need all ages material for. There's going to be some locations, like I was speaking of earlier with the dispensary, that I have to put mature theme titles, right? And then, of course, there are some comic shops that want to purchase things that are a little bit more hardcore. Like one of the shops that I deal with told me their best-selling comic in 2021 was at Piscor's Red Room. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard of it at the time that he told me about it. And I asked what it was about, and he said it was basically torture porn. So I don't know how accurate that is. I haven't read it yet. But you know, that was the number one selling title, right? I'm not going to judge what a comic shop wants to carry or what any location wants to carry. So we carry all different items. As long as there's nothing illegal about it, then, you know, I'll carry it.
And would you carry stuff that is someone else is distributing also?
Oh yeah, of course. Like Asylum right here. He is also with Diamond, and I think he might be with Universal. But we have a few different publishers that are also with Diamond. I think we have one who's with Lunar. That it doesn't matter to me where you distribute books.
Cool.
So does that make it more difficult if two places are selling the same book to the same place? Or are you always going for just, I want to go to alternative places?
Not really. The locations that we have that we're already purchasing some of the books through Diamond, I've actually had no problem with convincing them to carry them through us instead. So that's not something that's been a big barrier, really. One of them, before they had switched over, wanted to wait until the orders that they had placed had kind of already came out and all that, and then they were going to switch over to us. But that's not an issue that I've had. I've had no problem convincing them to go through me instead of Diamond, honestly.
Okay. I guess my final question is, where do you come up with the ideas of where to get comic books or pop culture stuff into? Are you just sitting there thinking, a donut shop would be a really cool idea, or is it just something that you have just thought of over the years?
Well, I've spent 15 years creating this plan. So that's a lot of time to be driving past places and be like, oh, you know, that kind of place, oh, that kind of place, that kind of place, right? But the reality is if I see a place and I think, hey, comics should be sold there, I'll just stop and shout them up. And, you know, you guys are never going to hear about the 19 that are just like get lost. You're going to hear about the one that's like, oh, you know, maybe. And then it goes somewhere, right? That's when you hear about it. But you know, I'll stop by and shout out pretty much anybody if I think it's a location that makes sense. And then there's some vetting that I need to do in terms of, you know, is this a place that people are actually coming into, things like that, right?
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, you're already in the locations you're in, and how do you find expanding out? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure like you have your area. Like, are you traveling out 100 miles, 200 miles from your location? I mean, what are you looking at?
So far, the farthest away, the location that's the farthest away that I have is in St. Helens. It's Comics and Games. That's, I think it takes me about 2 hours to drive from here. I'm willing to go farther than that. That's just the farthest out that I have currently. And I would like to find a few locations between the warehouse and Pantheon, to kind of add so that, you know, while I'm heading to Pantheon, I can also do this place, and this place, right? But I have plans within 5 years to be national. If it goes according to plan, it'll take about 5 years before we're fully national with the spinner house.
Gotcha. Nice.
So I have no interest in just staying regional. You know, I'm not planning to just stay in Oregon. It's just where I live, so that's where I started.
No, of course. I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, you know, you're not gonna start in like Miami,
right?
Right. This is an interesting question. Do you offer exclusive distribution? I can't speak. Exclusive distribution, and if so, what are the perks that might be there?
Hey Ben, if people look at your Kickstarter, they're gonna know that you know me. No, we don't do.
That's a brand ambassador right there.
Right? Yeah, Ben could be actually. So we don't do any sort of exclusivity currently. As a publisher, I'm not a fan of exclusivity agreements. I don't want to sign them, so I'm not looking to make anybody sign something that I wouldn't want to sign myself.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense. You know, I mean, you have to keep your options open, right?
Right. But, you know, that being said, I'm not looking to go through another distributor my own self. So, you know, I'm exclusive to me. I know that.
Right. Oh, and what's the title of your book? What's the book you create?
Ghost Assassin, Chronicles of Von Helsing. We put a one-shot graphic novel out a while back called Who Will Save the World. Have a all-ages title called Mini Slingers, one that's kind of in between all ages and mature called El Bovine Muerte, and a whole host of other things that are in various stages of completion that I don't want to talk about at the moment. But those are the titles that I kind of talk about.
All right, cool. All right, Travis, sir, you're up.
These are books. I did them. They're cool. The end. We're done, right?
That's it. We're done.
Best sales pitch ever.
Yes, they're awesome. Buy them now.
Sorry, my whole family just came in. They were out Christmas shopping, so it may get loud for a second. But Coins of Judas is my first superhero book. Basically, it's about when the 30 pieces of silver got slammed down for. I see he's already here. When the 30 pieces of silver got slammed down in front of the Pharisees. Shh. You can't. Yes, you can have my phone.
He said yes.
Hold on. There you go. That's how you handle that. That's called distribution. So he had something I needed. I gave it to him. Happy customer on his way.
Yes. Good job.
So basically, those 30 pieces of silver made demons. Those demons are now hunting the world. We get this brother and sister team. They're fighting those demons. Tyler Carpenter created it with me. It's very cool. I sent you in the other link the whole book if you want to show it. This is all they have on their website.
Okay.
I can it's in Diamond. So if you search, we finished issue 1 is already done. So you're gonna have to ask your comic store to see if they can get it directly. Issue 2's in stores right now, but yeah, are ready to order right now. Not in stores till January.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of a manga inspired. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna use we're talking about distribution today. We're gonna use the both system. We're gonna use a Diamond distribution, and then we're actually gonna go to Kickstarter too. But we're gonna do it the opposite way. It's gonna go to Diamond first, and then we're gonna kickstart the trade.
Oh, nice.
Well, go ahead.
How many coins does he have, and what is it like? Each denomination does a different thing.
So there's 30 pieces of silver. Each of them represents a different sin. So the worst thing you buy with money. This brother and sister team have 7, I believe, if I remember correctly. They have 7 of the coins that they've captured from demons in the past, and they're trying to hunt down the rest of the 30.
So where do you get the denominations? Is there something in your head that you're like, all right, killing somebody is worth 1 coin, suicide is worth 30 coins? Where was that?
No,
it's
that
any part of the process.
No, the demons are the coin, the actual physical coins of 30 pieces of silver from Judas. So they're hunting down those coins, and those coins have created demons that if you kind of kill them, you get a coin.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So this particular, there's a limited series, 4 issues.
But it's done in a neat new distribution model. We're doing 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 as separate 2-part series. So it's not like a full 1 through 4. It's a 1 and 2 and a 1 and 2.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. It came about. I submitted to Band of Bards to their anthology, and they liked the story. They're like, "We like it so much. Can we get you to do a series for us?" And I was like, "Sure. What kind of budget you have?" We talked about their budget. That got them 2 issues. And then once they saw how well we did, because we already have 1,500 pre-orders before the Diamond. So we've already, with all the store exclusive and everything, we already got 1,500. So we're just waiting to see what Diamond's going to put in as well. So it's doing well. I have a huge excitement about it, and I think that the Diamond route is going to really help push things, because we've got a lot of Whatnot and people who are big on those platforms who are promoting the book out. So hopefully get a little buzz.
All right, cool. Now, you've spoken a lot about store exclusives. Now, I was just wondering if you would be able to clarify that. Now, are you offering up like store exclusive new covers? Are you offering up like signings? I mean, what's going on? Like, how do you present that?
I'm doing both, but yeah, it's exclusive covers. So we're doing exclusive covers for these. In fact, I can actually send you this YouTube link if you want to play it real quick. It's only minute that'll show you all the store exclusives. Here you go. But I've got all these stores and YouTube channels and all that who wanted to get in on this and invest in issue 1. Store exclusives are a big part of the business when you're doing stuff. Andrea, had spent all day yesterday selling boxes and exclusives and all that. It's kind of the big thing when it comes to getting stuff into Diamond and trying to get your book to have more than a shelf life than just 1 issue and it's done.
Gosh, very nice. I don't want to go past page 10 because I want people to buy the book.
Go ahead. You get to see the demons and the fights. Don't you be scared? I ain't scared. So, in fact, if they are so desperate that they need to pause to read this book, JD, I'm not concerned. Like, they weren't going to buy it from me anyways. I'm pretty positive. Marvin's already downloaded. I can see it.
That's a very piracy thought right there.
Yep. But it looks awesome though, man. I mean, Tyler did a great job.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a level up for Tyler. I think this is his best work.
Mm-hmm.
Not only am I downloading it, I'm getting ready to make prints.
Thank you.
He's going to turn it into an NFT, and then he's going to do an AI generated story.
Is that how you got the chess crossover? You just downloaded his things, you just mix them on a page, and good to go.
Yeah. That's all right. Marvel will have his second. We'll throw up his PDF in a moment. All right, hold on. Let me see if I pull this thing up.
So yeah, that trailer will show you just a couple of exclusives and some of the stuff. We worked really hard on it. It's a big part of the industry, and it's hard. They're hard to sell because I think variant covers are going the way of the dodo. I think Whatnot's kind of killing that pretty fast. Like, not that they're killing it completely, but there's not going to be as many as there were. But
right, well, that's interesting. All right, well, I want to get back to that. Just let me play the video real quick. Hold on. There you go. That's we've had 2 more since then, but yeah. All right, cool. Damn YouTube. This, you run the video and they just give you a commercial afterwards. So I was gonna ask you. I mean, the store exclusive. So, I mean, listen, for everybody that listens. I mean, we got a lot of self-publishers that listen. Yeah. So I mean, what are you like? What are your tactics to sell to like a store? You approach a new retailer. You're like, hey man, how do you pitch that to them?
Mostly it's selling me, right? It's if you invest in me, I'll invest in you. Meaning, if you're close enough, I'll do a signing. If you need me to do YouTube videos, I'll help you sell these books. And I think that's all they need really is that extra like, hey, are we just going to be stuck with these, or are you gonna back it up? How are you going to back it up? It's showing them the property and really having communication of what their needs are. One of the things that helped me with Band of Bards is I knew it was a new property. I knew it was a new publisher. So I got them to do a minimum order of 50, which helped out tremendously. Because a lot of stores will take a risk on 50. If you look at Scout, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 250 for the minimum. So that's a bigger risk, right? Like 250, you got to really invest in this property to go it. Where if you can get that 50 thing, all right, if they get stuck with 50, it's not crazy amounts of money to allow them to help grow their business and try something new. So that's kind of the tactic. And I private message them and show them stuff, and I connect them with high level art. If you guys are in the circle, Rich Woodall's in there. He does a bunch of books for Black Caravan. We got Carmeline, who used to do Buffy. We've got a lot of really cool people who are doing these covers, which I think helped as well. As I asked my friends to give a decent rate to make it so it's really enticing and really affordable for people to do something cool.
Nice. Oh, very cool. All right, before we move on to the next thing, I think we discussed it a little off topic, but Kickstarter was mentioned. Do you all think Kickstarter is still a viable platform? It seems to be to have turned into creators supporting creators, which isn't terrible. But I have seen the platform in reaching new readers, I'd enjoy hearing opinions on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on the last show that I was on, where you have to be able to reach all your customers. So you need to be able to get those Kickstarters or those crowdfunders into the stores in front of people.
Mhm.
So they should have some kind of a computer or kiosk set up there to say that, hey, there's this new product that's coming down. We can help you get you set up so you can back it here, and then we'll order it to the store. So I mean that's right. It's more like, how do you capture someone who doesn't know that that thing exists?
The what I would state on that is it's a myth that it's only creators backing creators. There is a lot of creators backing creators. I'm not denying that, but you don't think that I get 500 something backers from Cthulhu Invades Wonderland from nowhere, right? They're readers. They just may not like what you're putting out. Like, that's a sad reality. I have to deal with it too, but it is what it is, you know. But there is a lot of readers on the platform. A lot of people who I know don't create comics who back my stuff, back my Substack, do the whole thing. That's a myth that people like to portray, because I think it's easier to say that, right? It's easier to go, oh, it's just creators creating creators. So, you know, creators, they're building their stuff. They don't have a lot of money, so that's why my stuff didn't do well. No, there's readers. You just need to know how to read them. And if your whole Kickstarter, if your whole Facebook or social media algorithm is just creators, that's probably all you're going to get, right? It's based on your social media plug. So if you're only associated with creators, you're going to get mostly creators. So how do you get readers into that social media algorithms?
There you go. That's the homework assignment, right? Find the readers, because it is difficult. You know, I mean, you know, reaching out. What happened? Oh, did you say something there, Marvin?
Yeah, I said you expand your reach. That's what it is. How do you expand your reach?
Exactly. You know. All right. Talking about expanding our reach, we got one more thing to go over. Marvin,
I don't even know what the heck this is.
Yeah, what is this? Talk to us.
Didn't you get a package in the mail about this?
Huh?
Did you get a package about?
I did get a package about this, and it went right into the read pile. So you're on the pod. This is coffee. I got a coffee pack of this a while ago. It's fantastic. I highly recommend the coffee. Nice.
Did you get powers?
I got the Edge coffee. Did
you get power from it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Nice. So Marvin, tell us about the Edge.
Sure. So there actually is a story tab there, but let's talk about it. So the Edge in this universe is a drug that grants people special abilities, but the cost of that is either you're going to die or you're going to go insane. The book is more about the consequences of using the powers than it is the powers themselves. Most of the people who have these powers are unaware that they've been dosed with this agent, but it's a ticking clock for all of them. So you see here that we got our our lead antagonist, Revenant, who has the ability to duplicate himself. So if he bleeds, he duplicates. So he's kind of that one-man army. You can sit behind enemy lines with a grenade. You tell him to pull the pin, and now he's just exponentially making copies of himself, and there's no way you can stop him. He just overwhelms the enemy.
Nice. Now, how long before death or insanity? What's the clock?
It's different for each one. It depends on how they use the powers. Like, we've got a lot of people who use it, and what it does is first they get infected and then they die. So you'll see like corruption in their body, corruption in the mind. You'll see some of the characters start to act a little off and start just displaying their powers in ways that they shouldn't be. But a lot of the times the powers don't work like their anticipated ways the powers will work. Sometimes they turn off. Like one of our characters, Blaine, that's the character in the red. He has the power to create a barrier around himself, similar to like the Invisible Woman. But the backfire of that is that he can use up all the oxygen because there's no oxygen. He's not generating new oxygen. He's breathing his own oxygen, and so he's creating CO2 within the barrier, so he can't keep it up continuously. It also doesn't protect him from heat or cold. So if he's in an environment where there's fire, it's going to heat up the oxygen inside, and it's going to burn out.
If he was underwater, would it stop the water?
For a limited time, but there's no oxygen in there, so eventually he has to drop it, and then he'll just drown or he'll suffocate. So your options are you're going to die horribly in one faster than the other.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Now,
so where did the idea for going insane or dying come from?
It was just you see a lot of things on the news about people getting hooked on drugs and the consequences of being hooked on drugs. So it's kind of in that path of the drug. A drug is no good. I mean, it's altering the body, it's altering the mind. So that is just the consequence of that thing.
Nice. Now, how many issues? No, go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, my question is, how does it connect to Over the Edge, the Marvel series from 1995? That's 12 issues. Is it prior or after the series?
That would be a trademark and copyright question with Marvel Comics. I will have to let you talk to their lawyers on that one.
So you're suing them over the?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Nice. So, how many issues in are you in? How many issues have you done so far?
So we have finished 17 issues so far. That's including the regular issues and then the 3 one-shots that we're working on.
Gotcha. Nice. Now, when are you releasing through Diamond?
That will be in January. So that should in the previews. I think that comes out on the 23rd digitally. So it'll be in that issue.
Gotcha. Are you also going to be in the printed?
Yes.
Catalog. All right, great.
And I think that comes out that week after.
Right.
It'll be in stores the week or that. I think what's the 23rd is what's that? Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, it'll normally come out like the last week.
Yeah.
The last Wednesday of the week. Yeah. Yeah. It's the only reason I go to comic book stores is to pick up the previews.
You don't just get the digital one?
I actually don't like digital.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, I'm going to get it because my book is in it. I have to collect all the ones that have my stuff.
No, of course. But no, every month I go to the comic book store just to pick up the damn previews.
Oh, cool.
I've been perusing that thing for years. So now, what type of release schedule are you looking at?
I'm going to stay to the same release schedule that I'm doing now, quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're really far ahead, but I don't want to catch up. I don't ever want to be in a position where we're close to a issue before we have to release another one. Like trying to rush and get something done isn't anything I'm a fan of. So as long as we stay, I'm trying to stay at least 5 issues ahead of where we're at on release.
Gotcha. Now, being that you've done this for a while, and now did Diamond give you any pushback on the 3-month schedule or the quarterly schedule?
They are really open on whatever the schedule you want to do now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was different before, but when they asked, I mean, it was like it's actually on the form now where it says how do you want to release. It says monthly, bi-monthly, and quarterly on there now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was on there before, but I mean they were open to it, so I mean it works for us.
So being so far ahead creatively, do you find it more difficult or less difficult when you want to make changes based on what's happening around your surroundings in real life?
So that actually did come up, and we did, and being ahead, it gave us an opportunity to go back and make and do some new things in the book. So we added pages to some of the books, and I actually removed some things from one of the books because of things that changed. And like I said, in our lives, that we were looking at one situation, we're like, oh, this is where we want to go, and then we changed our minds. So it allows us to do that. So we are being very flexible with what we do. So issue 10 is not going to be the same issue 10 that was originally going to be released.
No. Very nice. Very nice.
So all the socials are on there. We're doing theme songs for all the characters now also. So on December 17th, we're going to debut the full Revenant theme. Like I think we've got like a couple minutes of it up on YouTube right now.
Cool.
That's very Thundercats of you.
Everybody gets a theme song, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Like they said, and I'm going to get you, sucker.
I'm gonna get you, sucker. Every good hero needs one.
Good hero always needs a theme song.
All right. William Pace says, "Hail nerds." I don't know what that's about, but what's up, nerds? What's up, JD? What's up, Brian? Brian's cool.
I believe William. That's a term of endearment from William, though. I don't think that's a negative. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you know. All right. So I got this question. Do you guys think it's better to self-publish these days, or is it better to find the publisher these days? Just go it alone through Diamond, through Kickstarter, that sort of thing, or is it better to actually find, a publisher like Scout or Vault or any of these other companies? Travis, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask first, but I'll answer that. I think it depends on what your goal is, right? My goal is to work as high up this comics food chain as I can. So I need a distributor to help me move up that chain, right? Like I go to Scout, then I go to Aftershock, then I go to Dark Horse, then I go to IDW. That's the path you got to take. Right. It's not the only path you can take, but it's the path that we know has results. So if that's your goal, then that's the case. But I think what gets people confused is they don't do the simple math of how much you're going to make, because they think, well, I could do this if I send it to Scout, they're going to be able to make all this more money. No, like it's better if you can kickstart it, make your money. All right, I've made all the money I know possibly how, then to hand it over if that's possible. That's the best way to do it. So self-publishing has its advantages because you can get your money back a lot faster, a lot easier, versus the Scout. If I keep using Scout, I apologize. I'm not picking on Scout or SourcePoint or any of these companies. You have to have your series done. That's thousands of dollars of investment. If you don't have that, go the Kickstarter route, build your base, build your stuff, and then go from there before you can get to that route. Because I think that's what's killing a lot of these companies. These people, they're great creators, and they'll go to a small press, submit all their things. They'll do all the stuff. They'll invest, take out their loans, their 401ks to do their $20,000 to make a comic. And then when they make 6 back, they're very confused, right? So how do you stop that? And that's Kickstarter's the answer. And it also helps you build a fan base. So when you pitch that to a small publisher like Scout or SourcePoint, they know this is a trusted stuff that we can work with.
All right, fair. Adam, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that completely depends on the individual and their business acumen. If somebody doesn't know anything about business and they're not going to learn anything about business, because it's different to not know something and to refuse to learn, right? But if you don't want to learn anything about business, then you shouldn't be published. Just simplistic. Me personally, I want full control of all my stuff, so I want to go through another publisher. And I also would not assume, no offense to any of the other publishers, but I'm not going to assume they know more about business than I do. But for a lot of creators, business isn't going to be just second nature to most people. So, it's stuff to the individual.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Andre, just right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, I don't know if I would call it in my wheelhouse. I've only worked with publishers. So for me as a writer, I want to separate hats here. So I'm going to say what I'm about to say, I'm saying as a writer. As a writer, if it doesn't get published by a publisher, I'm not interested. I don't write anything that doesn't get published. Period. I'm not looking to do anything else but that. So that's from the writer side. So that's said. Now, from a publisher point of view, I think, like I can say Scout, I'll just talk about Scout here for a second. And
Right.
Scout has representation for multimedia. When you sign a contract with Scout, you actually have two contracts. You have a literary contract and you have a multimedia contract. That's what's one of the things that Scout or other publishers, not necessarily every publisher, but other publishers can offer. Now, keep in mind, the multimedia contract is a long shot. It's a long shot. But I think having people who are representatives in that business who are working, we have our representation is with Mosaic in Hollywood. It's better to have it than not. That's my opinion, So there's different things that a publisher can offer you that you can't get on your own. It's that simple. And again, with what Adam says with regard to business, I mean, I think that's a good, certainly a good point is you want to approach this as a business, understand, how this is going to go. I think it's very difficult. Now I'm switching my hat back to out of editor and back to writer. I think as a writer, it's very difficult to make a living. In fact, my advice to anybody who is a writer, get another job. Get another job, pay your bills with that other job, and writing is your side gig until it ain't. That's the way I would approach it. I think you'll be a lot healthier mentally, I think, instead of relying on writing to pay the bills. I think it's very hard to do that. I mean, that phrase starving artist, there's a reason why that's out there. It's very difficult to make a living as a creative, So I think taking that pressure off you, working another job that can, bring in a decent salary and take care of your base needs and stuff like that, it makes the other things possible. That's what I would recommend for people.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Mark, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm going to go fill out the Scout submission thing as soon as we finish this Zoom call.
StreamYard, sir. StreamYard. Not Zoom. StreamYard.
I'm so used to Zoom.
Oh, okay. I don't like Zoom. Marvin, what are your thoughts?
I think that you're almost in the position where you will try both because there's only so many spots available at these publishers also. So, I mean, a lot of these publishers, they get their calendar filled up and then you don't get an opportunity. So are you just going to sit and wait until their calendar opens for them to give you another shot, or are you just going to go off and do it on your own? Because I mean, it's going to happen eventually. Like they can't publish everything that comes towards the way, whether they like it or not. And there's situations where someone could say, "Hey, I really like this, but we just don't have an opening spot," and it could be 2 years, 3 years down the line before they get back to you and say, "Hey, we got a spot now. Are you still interested?" So I mean, are you going to sit there and wait, or are you just going to go do it on your own?
It's funny you mentioned that, Marvin. That happened to me with Source Point Press at New York Comic Con. They're like, our window just closed. We don't have a spot for you. I was like, all right. Try something else.
Yeah. So I mean, so what is your option in that situation? Do you say, okay, well, I'll try someone else, and then they tell you the same thing? So you're almost in the position where, do I wait or do I just go and do it?
Gotta keep on doing it.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. I mean, for myself, I think I've been self-publishing forever. I've worked for publishers as a writer back in the 90s. It's fun having that security of a publisher, right? It's a good feeling to have, but it's very freeing being a self-publisher. Being able to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself on my schedule, because I basically do, Andrea, I do what you just said, what you advised. I have a day job that pays for living and all that jazz, and then whatever I raise doing comic books, that pays for that. So it's very liberating for me, and it allows me to not have to stress, because there was a point when I was very young, when I was 19, 20 years old, and all I was doing was comics. we were just mostly selling through Diamond. Well, not just through the various distributors, all 14 of them, whatever. But I would also go to shows, and I would always stress, like, how much money am I going to make at this show? If I made less than $2,000 at a show, it was a disaster. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But once you get the day job, you're like, okay, now I don't have to worry about anything. It does make things a lot freer. Or at least it did for me anyway.
Right.
So
just to monkey wrench that, what happens if the publisher drops the ball?
Oh, well, that's
anything like that can certainly happen. I would tell you that, again, remember, it's all about what you want. What you want really does matter. I would say that, in terms of getting a spot at a publisher, any publisher, it's about seeing what that publisher publishes and rising to that level of competition. Like, for example, I really like Dark Horse as an American publisher. It's my favorite American publisher, that isn't named Scout, obviously. And I've told the president of Scout this, so I'm not saying anything I haven't said. But that is a very elite level of competition, in terms of, so your art better be on point, your writing better be tight, you better have a concept that's going to grab them by the throat, But here's the thing is that if you have a book, let's say you have a book that is very competitive, and I've seen this happen where we have a book, there was a book that a friend of mine and I put together, and, we showed it to Dark Horse and IDW, and both of them got back to us after the submission. And if you've ever submitted anything to these guys, that just getting a response and inside 24 hours after you send it in, that says a lot about their interest level. If they're not interested, you're not going to hear anything from them, But as it turned out, in both those cases, both of them eventually passed, because it didn't fit their, publishing agenda. Now, we got that book published in a different press. But the point is that if you're able to compete or come close to competing at that level, you're going to find a press that you will be able to get a spot. So that's what I would say is that it's competitive. Like I said, I'm not on the submission committee for Scout, but I get plenty of this conversation about it. And, they're looking to take the very best projects. So be one of the best projects, kick the door in where they have to take your project,
Yeah, the other thing I think I would want to add to this that I didn't say in my thing, a publisher doesn't save you. I think a lot of people think a publisher is like the saving part of things. So once you get published, you're good.
No.
There's so much more work, when I got the Coins of Judas and even the Granite State Punk, it's, I send an email and it will be a week before I get a response, and not because of stuff. They've got 20 titles that are coming out every month. Like it's not everything they can do. So when I have to get that email, I have to reply quickly. It's all on me to hustle when I get that email and then not hustle the stuff. And then when it's in Diamond, I literally have 30 days to promote this, kind of like a Kickstarter. But unlike a Kickstarter, I can't knock on that door every day. I can't knock on that door on Tuesday because that's when they get comics and sell DC. Can't knock it on the weekends because they're too busy then. Can't knock it on Wednesday. So now I've got Monday, which half of them are closed on Monday. So I've got literally Thursday because most of them do magic on Friday night, literally Thursday to reach out to these comic stores. Like that's it. So every Thursday you've got to reach out to try to get to that stuff. You got to reach out to do that extra work because it's not just your book. You're then competing against every other book. Hey, when I'm talking about store exclusives, I want them to buy my book. So how do I get them to do that? I have to go. I'm a better investment than the other 20 guys that are coming out that month, just in the catalog of my publishing company. That's not counting every other publishing company I'm against.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jumping
I
on
think
what Travis is saying, just like I was saying about how this entertainment, movies, TVs is sort of like that. You get so far to get your on a network. That's the next step, is having people watch that as opposed to something else.
Yeah. All right, cool. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We made it to the 2-hour mark. We're here. So, like I said, this was awesome. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Madeleine, for showing up. Marvin, always a pleasure. You know how it is. Adam, please let everybody know where they can find you and your website and your work.
Comicsmainstream.com for the distribution end, darkslinger.com for the publishing end. Darkslinger Comics or Comics Mainstream on pretty much every social media thing except for TikTok. I'm not on TikTok with any of my profiles, but otherwise we can be found on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
All right, cool. Andre, where can they find you and your work, sir?
theshepherdcomic.com and of course scoutcomics.com.
All right, very nice. Travis?
So go to my Substack, travisgibb.substack.com. That's where I'll tell you about all the Orange Cone stuff, whether it's coming out through Band of Bards, or it's coming out through Scout, whether it's coming out on Kickstarter, where I start slamming your door starting January again. You know, that's where you find me to get all that good stuff. Though I am concerned about all the messages I've been sending to Adam Watson on TikTok, so that's concerning. So I'm going to have to address that after the show.
Nice.
All my TikTok dancers go to some random Adam Watson and not this dude.
There is another Adam Watson that creates comics.
Oh,
I
nice.
told him the Highlander had out at one of the shows, and I haven't seen him at any other show since then.
Well, Adam, you look. I've never met you in person, but you look like a big guy. I mean, tall.
6 foot. You know.
Yep, there you go.
Tall enough.
Yep, tall, definitely. Mark, where can they find you and your work, sir?
So it's always easiest to just Google It Came From the Radio. We are a syndicated radio show. We're on 88.1 FM WARY in Westchester County, New York. If you're not living in that area, go online. We're on over 40 different podcast places. We're on a couple of online radio stations. If you just type that in, you can find us. Facebook and Twitter are the ones that I use. We have an Instagram, but I haven't touched that in the longest time. Oh, and we have a live show the second Wednesday of every month, courtesy of the East Meadow Public Library, East Meadow, New York. We have one coming up this week. We have a stand-up comedian and a disabled writer, Louis M. Cruz. So if you want information on that, it's a free to be part of the virtual audience. That is www.eastmeadow.info. You go on, you can register free, be part of the in-studio audience virtually. And then starting in January, we're going to be going back to in-person live shows every second Wednesday of the month, so you have to go down to the East Meadow Public Library. But release a new show every week, www.itcamefromradio.com.
All right, cool. Marvin?
Yes, sir. So just head on over to theedgecomic.com. All my socials are there. Our next show will be in February. We'll be up near Penn State in Happy Valley.
All right, cool. So my name is JD Calderon. You can find me here most Sundays. I occasionally take a Sunday off, like Christmas. We won't be here. But you know, thealzochronicles.com.
The holiday Christmas, I'm not going to be here.
We're not going to be here, no. But I will be here for New Year's. So we'll do that day.
That's embarrassing that you're not coming for Christmas.
I know. But you know, we have to take a break for the family. You know, but we'll do New Year's. We're gonna do an open mic, so that'll be interesting.
We'll do a countdown. We're gonna have a countdown.
No, it's Sunday. It's already New Year's Day.
Nah.
Yeah, there you go. Right. But thank you everybody for being here. You guys are awesome. Thank you. This was, I think, very informative. You know, I think the more information we get out there to creatives and to creators, the more beneficial it is for everybody. You know, I mean, I think, like I said, Adam, what you're doing, Andrea over at Scout, Travis, the stuff you've been doing is fantastic. You know, Marvin, Mark, you know, just get out all that information as much as possible, you know. So thank you guys for being here. You guys are awesome. Madeleine, thank you for being here as well. And I'll be talking to you all soon. And if anybody is curious, check the show notes. I have all the links in the show notes. All right. So thank you so much, guys. And I'll be talking to you all soon. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.